The old townsfolk warned me. Stay inside, lock your doors, don't look outside. Their whispers echoed in my ears, a chilling symphony of fear and dread. They spoke of a malevolent entity, a witch with vengeance in her heart and death at her fingertips. She haunted our town, a shadowy spectre draped in the darkness that clung to our history. My name is Des, and this is my chilling story. I'd only heard the whispers, the hushed stories told around crackling fires and beneath the threadbare blankets of childhood. Every 20 years, the witch returned to Shadow Creek, her presence suffocating, her touch deadly. My grandparents used to tell me she was a vengeful spirit wronged by the townsfolk centuries ago, burned at the stake for horrendous crimes she didn't commit. Or maybe she did, I don't know. Either way, she's real, and she's back. The air itself felt different tonight, heavy, oppressive. Midnight was approaching, and with it the promise of an encounter that would change everything. I could feel it in my bones. The witch was near, and this time there would be no escaping her wrath. The next chapter of my life was about to begin. Shadow Creek, my childhood home. Even the name felt heavy on my tongue, a bitter taste of fear and resignation. Nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains, our town was a place forgotten by time, shrouded in perpetual twilight and an ancient curse. The houses, old and weary, seemed to sag under the weight of their history, their faces etched with the memories of generations past. I lived in my grandmother's house now, a rambling Victorian mansion at the edge of town. Its once bright paint was peeling, and the wrap-around porch creaked under the weight of the encroaching ivy, but it was home. The musty scent of old books in the study, the ticking grandfather clock in the hall, the faded floral wallpaper in my grandmother's sewing room. These were the things that tethered me to reality, to sanity. As a child, I used to spend hours poring over my grandmother's diaries, her elegant cursive painting, chilling tales of the witch's wrath. Every 20 years, she wrote, the witch would return, her eyes burning with cold fire, her laughter a chilling symphony of despair. She would steal into homes, preying on the fear of the townsfolk, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and despair. My grandmother had survived 3 of the witch's visits, her spirit unbroken. Now it was my turn to face the witch's curse. The air grew colder and the shadows seemed to whisper my name. I knew the time was near. As the clock struck midnight, I steeled myself for what was to come, knowing that the past was about to collide with the present. The witch's return was imminent and I had to be ready. The wind howled like a banshee outside, rattling the windows and sending shivers down my spine. I sat huddled by the fireplace, a flickering fire casting dancing shadows on the walls. The old grandfather clock in the hall chimed 8 times, each toll a hammer blow against the fragile silence. I tried to distract myself, to lose myself in a book, but the words swam before my eyes, meaningless and distant. The air grew colder, a bone-chilling dampness that seemed to seep into my very bones. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled with a sudden awareness, a primal instinct screaming at me to run, to hide. Something was different. The air itself felt charged, electric, as if the very fabric of reality was thinning, revealing the darkness that lay beneath. I could feel it now, a palpable presence, an entity of pure malevolence lurking just beyond the veil of my perception. I rose from my chair, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. With trembling hands, I reached for the door, knowing that whatever lay beyond it would change everything. The next chapter of my ordeal was about to begin. A lone figure stood at the edge of the woods, shrouded in shadow, her silhouette a stark contrast against the swirling fog. She was tall and slender, her long black hair whipping in the wind like a living thing. Even from this distance, I could feel the intensity of her gaze, cold and calculating, like a predator sizing up its prey. My hand flew to my mouth, stifling a gasp. It was her, the witch. My grandmother's stories, the whispered warnings of the townsfolk, all came flooding back to me, a tidal wave of fear and dread. I should have turned away, should have retreated to the safety of my home, but I couldn't tear my gaze from her. The figure began to move, gliding towards the town with an eerie grace that defied the laws of nature. She moved with unnatural speed, closing the distance between us with each passing second. Panic surged through me, icy and paralyzing. I was frozen in place, trapped by the sheer terror that emanated from her very being. As she drew closer, I could make out the details of her appearance. Her face was pale, almost ghostly, with a sinister smile forming on her lips. I began to back away slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. Dark clouds gathered above, casting an ominous shadow over the town. With a final glance at the approaching figure, I turned and ran towards the safety of my home, knowing that this encounter was only the beginning. The grandfather clock in the hall chimed, its sonorous tones reverberating through the silence. Midnight, the witching hour. It was said that the veil between our world and the spirit world was thinnest at this hour. When shadows danced with the living and the dead walked among us, I tore myself away from the window, my heart hammering against my ribs like a war drum. The witch was getting closer. I could feel her presence now, a suffocating weight pressing down on me, stealing the air from my lungs. I had to do something. I had to protect myself. I raced to the kitchen, adrenaline coursing through my veins, and grabbed the heaviest cast iron skillet I could find. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. My grandmother's teachings echoed in my mind. Iron, salt, fire, weapons against the forces of darkness. I steeled myself, knowing that the next few moments would be crucial. With a deep breath, I prepared to face whatever came next. The battle was about to begin. The front door creaked open, a slow, agonizing groan that sliced through the silence like a knife. I froze, my blood turning to ice in my veins. She was inside. The witch was inside my house. I held my breath, listening for any sound, any indication of her movements. Silence. Then the soft padding of footsteps on the hardwood floor. She was close. I could feel the heat of her gaze, the weight of her malevolence pressing down on me. "Hello, Des," a voice whispered, raspy and ancient, echoing around me like the rustling of dead leaves. I spun around, my heart leaping into my throat. She stood in the doorway, framed by the darkness, her eyes burning with an unholy light. The cast iron skillet clattered to the floor, the sound deafening in the stillness. I backed away slowly, my mind racing for a plan, any plan, to escape her grasp. My hand reached for the phone, but I knew it was too late. She was already here. Her presence loomed closer, the air thick with dread. The next moment would change everything. Fear, raw and primal, threatened to consume me. But beneath the terror, a spark of defiance ignited within me. I wouldn't go down without a fight. Not tonight. "What do you want?" I choked out, my voice trembling. The witch smiled, a slow, cruel stretching of her lips that sent shivers down my spine. "You know what I want, child," she hissed, her voice like the slithering of snakes. "Vengeance. Retribution for the sins of your ancestors." She took a step closer, her eyes boring into mine, and I felt a wave of dizziness wash over me. Her presence was overwhelming, suffocating, like being trapped in a nightmare with no escape. "But you spared my grandmother," I stammered, clutching at the memory of my grandmother's stories, her tales of survival. The witch tilted her head, a flicker of amusement in her eyes. I knew I had to find a way to break this curse, to end the cycle of vengeance. With a deep breath, I steeled myself for what was to come next. The battle was far from over. The witch took another step towards me, and I stumbled backward, my hand groping for the fireplace mantel behind me. My fingers closed around something cold and metallic, the poker. "You're wrong," I said, my voice gaining a newfound strength. "I'm not afraid of you. Not anymore." The witch laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the house, sending shivers down my spine. "Brave words, child," she said, "but bravery won't save you from what's to come." She lunged at me, her hand outstretched, her fingers tipped with claws that gleamed like obsidian in the firelight. I reacted instinctively, swinging the poker with all my might. It connected with her arm, and she shrieked, a sound of pure fury and pain. The witch stumbled back, her eyes blazing with hatred. "You will regret that, child," she hissed, clutching her arm. I stood my ground, breathing heavily, the poker still clenched in my hand. Thick black and green blood poured from her arm. The witch retreated into the shadows, her sinister smile lingering in the dim light. "Foolish child," she said menacingly. I knew I had won this round. However, this was far from over. The real battle was just beginning. Gaps, too. As dawn broke, casting long shadows across the weary town, a strange sense of calm settled over me. Had I really won? The witch was gone, I'd survived, but at what cost? Her words echoed in my ears, a chilling reminder of the curse that still hung over Shadow Creek. She'd be back. In 20 years she'd return, her thirst for vengeance unsated. The townsfolk emerged from their homes, their faces etched with a mixture of relief and apprehension. They'd heard the witch's screams, had felt the shift in the air as she'd been challenged, wounded for the first time in centuries. Their gazes fell upon me, a mixture of awe and fear in their eyes. I was a stranger in their midst now, forever marked by my encounter with the darkness. I realized then that the curse on Shadow Creek was not just a tale whispered around flickering fires. It was a living, breathing nightmare that we would have to face together. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. And so we braced ourselves for the long, dark road ahead. The old townsfolk say that the witch's curse will never be broken, that she's forever bound to this land, her thirst for vengeance insatiable. They say that every 20 years, when the veil between worlds thins, she'll return, and the cycle of fear will begin anew. I used to scoff at their superstitions, their whispered fears. Now I'm not so sure. 20 years have passed since that fateful night. 20 years of uneasy peace, of looking over my shoulder, of waiting for the inevitable. The town has rebuilt, the scars of that night slowly fading, but the memory lingers, a shadow draped over our collective soul. I've spent these years researching the curse, delving into ancient texts, seeking a way to break the cycle, to free Shadow Creek from the witch's grasp. But every path leads to a dead end, every answer shrouded in more mystery. Tonight the air is heavy once more, thick with the stench of fear and anticipation. The wind whispers through the trees, carrying with it the echo of her laughter, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks just beyond our perception. I can feel her presence now, closer than ever, her malevolence seeping into my bones like a poison. I'm ready for her this time. I have to be. The witch might have spared my grandmother all those years ago, finding her spirit intriguing, but she won't spare me. This time I have the knowledge, the tools, and the resolve to end this once and for all. This vicious cycle must be broken at all costs, and it ends tonight. Thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more. And do feel free to leave story suggestions down below.